Okay, Historian Judd is not here tonight, so I'll take the roll call. Commission Member Aaron's.
Here.
Commission Member Walther.
Here.
Commission Member Johns.
Here.
Commission Member Corona.
Here.
Commission Member Himes.
Here.
And then Commission Member Pearson is absent, and Commission Member Brandt, myself, I'm here. We do have the meeting minutes from April to review. I know the May meeting minutes are still in progress from Commission Member Pearson. So if we take a quick moment to review these, see if we have any corrections. I noticed one, although I was not present at the meeting, but did notice as far as a typo, I believe it's probably meant to say discussion instead of discussion for two of the items under the liaison reports. There should be discussion on how to edit such a large file, and then discussion on need to take streetscape photos, etc. Those are the only two typos I noticed. But I'll let anyone else, if they've got.
I had one where it says 18 properties added to the list that Sarah C. did for streetscape photos. There were 4 individual photos, not streetscape.
Okay.
What is it under?
It's the third item.
Oh, yeah, liaison report.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Are we going back and do I fix it and then email it back to you guys?
Yeah, as a PDF, and then we'll upload it to the website and Drive. Last takers. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Anyone want to make that motion?
Motion.
Second it.
Yeah, okay, got a motion from Commissioner Corona, seconded by Commissioner Johns. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention from me, since I wasn't present.
Well, I'm listening to. That's right. I wasn't here.
Yeah, but nevertheless, good to go. Okay, thank you. We do not have anyone here present for public input tonight. We do not have any applications for landmark designation or certificates of appropriateness. I am aware of 2 pieces of correspondence that we received through the historian's office, which are on the agenda tonight. And these were 2 items brought to our attention from a member of the public that attended the landmark plaque presentation ceremony at town board this month. They followed up with an email regarding some current concerns that they had related to 2 potentially historic properties in the town. The first one being the existence of lakefront, the sort of right-of-way that runs along the beach and the Somerville White City area of the town, of their concerns regarding encroachment on that public right-of-way instead of it being sort of maintained as a sort of a sidewalk, as it were, along the beach. It's an interesting item, at least given the current discussions we're having with our code update, to potentially consider scenic landmarks, where I think this would sort of fall under a category. I think at this point, I'd be happy to respond to this individual and encourage them, if they are interested in discussing this further with the board, that they could come before us, or if they really want to begin to pursue a potential landmark designation, they can also begin to explore that. But at least at this point in time, until we have an updated code, we don't really have provisions to review it, as it were, because it doesn't really cleanly fall within the bounds of the current provisions of our code.
Are you positive of that?
Not positive. It's not like, it's not outright out of it, but it's not clear line in as it would be in the updated code, where we would be able to review a potential. And it's also another question, I think, that I know from other municipalities related to right-of-ways, would be sort of figuring out who is the owner of the right-of-way and the ability to enforce or self-enforce. So I know that might be a particular issue with this location. I'm not very familiar as far as who owns the right of way, like if it is publicly owned or if it's owned by like some previous iteration of like the Somerville Neighborhood Association or something like that.
Or something.
Right, yeah, so it's not clear what the legal status is of it, but it's not just part of private parcels.
So that would be the first thing,
Right.
anyway, just to find out if it is a public right of way or not.
I've always understood that as a public.
As a public right of way.
It's town property.
Okay,
Town's supposed to maintain it, but the rub here is lots of the sidewalk parts of that, we'll just say,
make sure to put your mic on.
it's like an easement, right? There's a lot of it's set up like an easement because it literally cuts through halfway through the people's like.
Oh, like through the parcel itself?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
Is it paved, like a sidewalk?
Some of it's paved, some of it isn't. It's broken out, but there's some spots that it's much more conspicuous that it's probably it's town because it's outside of people's yards, the fence lines there, like you like the conventional sidewalk where you would see. There's parts of that, like by the tot lot and everything, like the end of Beteau and everything. That's more obvious. There's those park benches there, but then you go towards the river from there, like where Washington ends, and that's where the rub is. Like, because the people like put their chairs around patios in front of it, and then they're like, "Why you cut through my yard?" You know, like it looks like you're invading their area, so that's where that's where the rub area is. But that's still technically, from what I understand, that's town property that cuts through there.
And where does
But
it
people
go?
are kind of taken over by adverse possession, like they just kind of take it over and think it's theirs.
so I think Greg might know better than me, but I was recently reading one of the books in our local history division, one that's on Somerville, but I believe Lakefront kind of starts, is it all the way over at Tone Terrace at like the easternmost edge of like Tent City, and then it runs westward pretty much all the way to Westgate.
As far as I know,
Yeah.
that runs like all the way down to like Duran Park, I think.
Oh, really? So it runs even further east than that?
I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
But,
But I don't know if the spots that are conspicuous where you can see it is pretty much where Beteau is. Like, but I thought it runs past for that, but don't quote me on
And
that.
that's separate from that old railroad easement,
Yes,
correct.
the railroad's further south.
yeah, it's further south.
south.
Yeah.
The part that I don't know is like if you look, we're past Washington. Like if you're looking west,
At like First
Washington,
Street, Second Street, those.
where
Yeah.
Washington ends and cuts into St. Paul.
Yep.
If you run as a crow flies west of there, that portion, what I don't know is who owns the land beyond that easement towards the lake. Because these people mow those lawns, they take care of it, but is that, I don't know if that's town property or that's private property on the north side of that easement.
Your
Yeah.
fifth frame,
Yes.
Yes.
all
Yeah.
that stuff right
All,
there.
but if you goes to crow flies from Fifth Crane towards the lake,
Yeah,
behind there, there's an easement, like a right of way for people that have to walk, sidewalk kind of thing.
Yeah, and some of those houses have addresses that are, 123 Lakefront is the actual mailing address for the residents.
Found it out, Mark, and
Yeah.
I wrote it.
So it's at the end of Delta Terrace, at least according to the maps here, and it runs west to Beach Avenue and Beach Avenue and St. Paul.
But what I don't know is if you look on the map, Mark, like what's north of there? Is that
It's
town
all-
property or is that privately owned?
That I
Or
don't know. It
I
just
think
shows
that
it as
that's-
green
A lot of that's
space.
town property that people just take care of.
Because there's one similar to this on the city. in
Right.
the city.
Yeah, over at Beach Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a
And
similar
that's-
public right of way, and that is maintained by the city.
It's very obvious. I
Right.
mean, it's not known. It's not that well known. It's kind of secret. It's kind of hidden,
Secret
but
high sidewalk.
All right,
but
yeah.
you can use it, and people use it. They walk, you
Yeah.
know, down that. It's not. It maybe not. It's not. Maybe not as long as this, but
Mm-hmm.
almost.
So you're telling me there's a public sidewalk?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
But people.
But it was this person was raising, so they're a long time, if not lifetime, resident of the Somerville neighborhood, and they raised concern over I think one, lack of knowledge of it being this sort of like public right of way, but then also these sort of conditions where there's maybe adverse possession or sort of expansion by private property owners onto it or beyond it.
That's adverse possession,
Yeah.
I would be, everybody's kinda worried
Yeah,
about.
that
because
always-
They're mowing it for years and years and nobody's claiming it.
Right.
Yeah, there's adverse
They
possession.
always do
right there.
that. But maybe I know we're adding a lot of stuff to the report, but that's part of one of the district. No. Is that something they could just mention?
If yeah, in Somerville, yeah, the review, if they, in the discussion of Somerville, like those areas, then yeah, that's part of its sort of history of development with having that, yeah, the
Even a
lakefront.
mention of it, that
Right.
gives us something.
Mm-hmm,
And it gives it a historic,
right.
gets it up under our purview.
Okay. The other piece of correspondence that we received, it's another item of concern related to, this is a non-designated property, but a potentially historic former house at the southwest corner of Titus and Portland.
Behind the gas station?
Correct, yes.
Automotive place?
Yes,
Yeah, it
so
looks
it's
like
a 1850s, give or take,
Yeah, it's a
brick Greek Revival house with a stone foundation. I know it's undergoing a reuse project that did appear before the planning board
Oh, it did.
at some point in the last year and a half. But yeah, there was no referral for any kind of commentary on our end. It's not, doesn't have any official designations or recognition, but this point of concern that's coming from the public is related to the current renovations that are undergoing at the house, which if you've noticed is covered in a number of vertical pieces of sort of wood studs because they're getting ready to put vinyl siding over the brick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A town person was concerned about that?
Yeah, so town person raised concern about that.
Oh, okay. It's a brick.
Yes.
Facing-
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
brick.
Yeah, the house faces Portland. It's
Yeah,
on,
it's on
yeah,
the-
yeah, on the west side.
And that was
Yeah,
not
so-
noted in their report at all.
A real estate
No,
attorney
no.
had that for years. What's his name? I did have that listing too. I forgot his name. Anyways, doesn't matter, but yeah, it's definitely would qualify. Well, would've.
Would have,
I was gonna say, is it too late to,
Isn't it too?
yeah. And I think, yeah, it brings up a potential topic for more future discussion beyond all the current things that we're working on, of the current procedural method of operation that's being already done here in the town with the interaction between the Conservation Board and the Planning Board and Zoning Board. The Conservation Board, unlike the zoning, planning, and ourselves, they are not an enforcement board. However, they advise, and they, when there are items that fall under their purview that appear before the zoning and planning boards, those applications are first sent to the Conservation Board for their review and commentary and advisement to the planning and zoning boards. So there is precedent for taking the same thought process in a preservation lens. In other municipalities where if you had an identified list of buildings or districts, i.e. what's coming in the Historic Resource Survey, that if there are applications before these other enforcement boards pertaining to these properties that are not officially designated but have been identified as being eligible or eligible for designation or eligible for National Register listing, that the Preservation Board could, kind of this would have to be sort of established through bylaws or through a change to the code in the future, we could have a sort of similar relationship between us and the planning and zoning like the Conservation Board has now, as a sort of adding to our plate of charges to be a advisory commission in the instance where there are potentially historic buildings that have not been officially designated as such, but gives us the opportunity to at least comment and advise in the hope that something such as this house could be avoided in the future, but it doesn't turn into the full-fledged trying to designate it or trying to do something that is reactive when the project's already well underway. So, but
Would an example be the building a designated historic value go for
Yes.
zoning for like windows and?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be, so what Jennifer's referring to is the designated buildings of historic value list in the city of Rochester. So that's sort of their similar method to what I just sort of reviewed, that they do have this secondary umbrella that catches way more properties than are actually designated landmarks in the city. And it prompts this sort of commentary and a little bit of heightened review, but not to the level of review of a certificate of appropriateness. And it still goes solely through planning or zoning. It does not go through their preservation board. And then the town of Brighton also has this as well for their commission, although they are a little bit more limited in that it only pertains to demolitions and not to necessarily a development project on a previously identified property. Although their demolition ordinance is more broad, that they just give an age. They just say if it's 50 years or older, doesn't matter what it is, that demolition has to be reviewed by the Preservation Commission before any other review or proceedings. So
How effective are those?
the demolition review,
No, like the City of Rochester one.
it does hinge a little bit on the staff support and review and making sure that you have those properties identified. So I would say in the city of Rochester in the last 10 years, it's been quite effective, that they do sort of stick to the rule of law, and that if it is a DBHV, it does get this sort of extra layer.
How effective is it in actually changing the design or
Gotcha.
preserving the actual?
So I would say it is effective. So yeah, at least anecdotally from my professional experience for a client who had a building that was a DBHV but was not a designated landmark, we did have to provide some additional clarification, and then there was a requested adjustment to the design that came from staff with advisement from the preservation board to us. But it was sort of all, at least for them, if they can, they try to manage it with just staff review before they even get to a hearing. But there's other times where you also have the hearing as well with that advisement that kind of comes in through a staff report to that zoning board or planning board. So the city certainly utilizes it. I know Brighton is very like by the book. They do it every single time for any building that's 50 years or older for their demolition ordinance. So I'd say, yeah, in both they do it pretty effectively and pretty thoroughly. But it's meant to be more of a light touch, not to just like spread preservation everywhere, but to at least provide a little bit of extra nuance at a broader base as a sort of secondary advisement function. So.
To be clear, that's something that needs to be added to code. It's not
Correct.
just something that.
Yes, and it would be something I think that would need to be explored in collaboration with town staff as well as with our fellow sort of sister or brother boards here in the town first before we even sort of begin the process to look at it, but to at least see that we've got this sort of public input and concern about it, that there is precedent within other municipalities of Monroe County for having some sort of similar setup to this. We have a potential formula to follow already in the town of Arundecoit with the Conservation Board, and we can talk about that potential process. But I think it's good to not sort of monkey wrench that into the sort of more incremental progress that we've made already with a lot of the effort with getting our code up to date and in compliance with state standards. So. That was a long soliloquy, so thanks for listening. Okay, for the liaison report, I guess I'll maybe use this as the opportunity. So Mark, myself, and Tim were present at this month's town board meeting. We had the opportunity to present the first two of our 6 plaques this year. These were presented to the Arundecoit Historical Society and the town of Arundecoit in recognition of the Pioneer House and the Cobblestone Blacksmith Shop, which are both designated landmarks here in the town. That presentation went really well. We had a representative from the Arundecoit Historical Society, Ellen Flesh, their president, give some brief remarks. And then we handed off the plaques there, and then we are currently scheduled to continue with our plaque presentations both this month, or sorry, July and August, with 2 plaques each for those meetings. I believe, we'll double check, I think Greg, you were one of the 2 recipients in July. That I need to contact. I think your sister is the other person we're doing that. We grouped you 2 together to make it a little easier to get you here.
Good, it gives me another month. I have to do a letter, but I don't have to do it, I didn't have to do it for the town hall or for you guys. Explaining what it is,
Yeah.
you know what it is, the plaque.
The 2 plaques were the town buildings here?
Yeah, the Pioneer House and Cobblestone Blacksmith Shop, and then Tim will be coordinating between the Irondequoit Historical Society and the commission to assist the Irondequoit Historical Society with installing the plaques here in the near future. And that got right into old business. We already got through landmark property plaques.
By the way, not to get off on a tangent, my sister said you gave her a picture of my childhood home, my parents'
Yeah.
house, like, of a street picture.
A street picture, yeah.
Yeah, where did you get that? It was pretty cool.
I don't remember how I found it.
Like in
Yeah.
1914, but I never saw the street of 1914.
Yeah. I don't remember how I found it, but I remember I stumbled across it and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know I'm pretty sure I know what house that is.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't know, she put it up somewhere.
Well, I'll actually add that maybe so, since Craig, it sounds like you acknowledge that your family home, that your sister's now the owner of, so you guys have historic photographs of it.
Of the house itself, but
Yeah.
we never had a street
Right.
view, like in the middle of the street of it, so that was cool.
So I was like, with the presentation, what we did for these first 2 properties is we provided a sort of a little paragraph about the history of the property, why it was designated, and then we shared photographs of each one. Obviously with the Pioneer House, the Cobblestone Blacksmith Shop, there's a lot of photos from the moves and shots from the historian's office. But if you have a couple of historic photographs that you or your sister would be willing to share, we'd love to continue that in July by providing the town board members photographs of the properties.
Yeah.
And doing these helps, well, the planning board people aren't there, but at least
Yeah.
it gives the town board more appreciation of
Right.
what we do, and it's good PR for us. So if we
Yes.
want to do that light list,
Yeah,
it just helps.
right.
So, the 2 residences.
Make sure your mic's off.
The 2 residences, just for the meeting minutes, are the 2 Walther can you give me the address?
The first address is 4185 St. Paul.
Yep. And
You want the owner name or
No, that's right. And the other one's, is it 4265?
4265?
Yep.
My house.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Great. And then quick update on the revised code. We've incorporated town feedback, a few adjustments from our commission training that we went to this year. Mark's making a final check on the revised code, and then it will be sent here in the next week or 2, I assume.
Yeah, I gotta get it done.
to the town attorney, and then they will do review, and then after that, it's off to town board for review. So thank you everyone for your work on it.
Do we want to add anything about this coordination between the
I wouldn't, yeah,
copy whatever the conservation board has in theirs?
I wouldn't yet.
yeah. I'd like to start the conversation first instead of
Because it
surprise putting it in
could
the
be
code.
a few years away then.
It could be, yeah.
It's
We
not-
want
that's
to
fine.
we want to get like
bad
stuff
thing.
designated at the local level, I would say first,
Yeah.
before we kind of
Yes.
have a
It would
second
look like
category.
a power grab.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
They're doing.
Correct.
And I wouldn't even be in favor of it
Yeah.
because it would not look good.
Wimbledon Road Historic District, I assume no updates with signage, but I'll give you, if you have an update, Mark? No? Okay.
Been thinking about it, but
Okay. This is another reminder to all my fellow commission members that if you have not completed the required town sexual harassment prevention training, to please complete it. You should be receiving reminder emails from their system if you've not yet completed the training. And for those of you who have completed it, thank you for completing it.
Okay, I just have to say that I reached out to Jason and said, I have to do it with my work, right?
Yeah.
Can I just show my certificate because other towns, they won't let you do that, so.
Said that you have to do it regardless if you
Yeah.
do it in other places, you have to
What
do
about
it.
if you have different committees on the town itself? You get to do multiple.
You should, yeah, maybe just ask Jason
That's
to
what
be
I was
sure.
really
Yeah,
focused,
yeah, just double check.
Why did you do it for the assessors?
When I got the email, I literally didn't know what it was for. I thought it was, at first thought it was for the assessors.
Oh.
Because we were just about to get into our meetings and stuff, and I got that email, and I'm like, oh.
No,
And
yeah,
then later, a couple days later, I saw an email from you saying, hey, you're gonna be getting it. I'm like, oh, it's probably from that, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
But you did it, you said you did it. You said it took you like a half hour.
I did it, but I didn't know under what context. Was it for the bar?
oh, no, yeah, it was for here, so,
But I think I pretty much guessed it was here because Chris's email came out a couple days later, and
yeah.
I might have asked some other people on the bar if they got it, and I think that maybe they didn't or something. But why wouldn't it? Is every single? They should probably do it too.
Yeah, they should do it for everyone, I'm sure. Yeah.
Whatever.
Townwide Historic Resource Survey, so I just sent today to folks who hadn't seen it the sort of chain of emails that started with the sort of a giant email from me that collected all of our feedback and sent it to to our consultant, KTA Preservation Specialists. They are working through the feedback. They did request a relatively short extension. I confirmed with SHPO that this wouldn't sort of run into any issues. So their plan is to submit the final report for SHPO review on August 1st. And then that still gives SHPO and them 60 days to review and do any final edits by the 100% all done due date of September 30th. And then we still have another month to finish our paperwork and final payment to be in compliance with our grant.
So
But
September 30th is the,
no exceptions, 100% complete,
report
gotta be in, yes.
to SHPO or to us.
To everyone, yeah, so it'll be to us and to SHPO. Their final for SHPO review is August 1st,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the other date you said, that's just paperwork.
Paperwork is one more month past the 30th of September, so it'd be the 30th of October, or I think it might even be November 1st, is the when we have to get all of our final paperwork, final payments all submitted for reimbursement.
So, can I ask where we stand with all of our work?
So with our work, I still need to do some streetscape photography, and then depending on the response to our feedback, and some initial feedback from SHPO, so that's the other sort of up to here, is that SHPO is planning to make a day-long visit to the town of Veronicoit in the middle of July to sort of review or just sort of see in person. KTA is intending on coordinating with us to meet with SHPO on that day. I still haven't gotten a date, and if folks are interested in taking some time off work, if you want to come to it, but I'm fine to be the sole tribute to save you all from losing a middle of the weekday. So depending on what results from that sort of feedback from SHPO, their response to our feedback, there may be more individual properties or there may be more streetscapes. Because that's a sort of question that's been left hanging, is that there were a number of districts that were identified that were not in the draft that we reviewed. And some of the feedback that I provided in the long emails, if they're not going to be a district, then we need to review a select body of properties for individual eligibility. And they're digesting it, but they've not responded what their direction is. But they do know that they've got to give us direction on what it is, whether they're going to do a district in these other areas that they haven't identified, or they're going to identify a grouping of individual properties that we'll need to be taking photos of.
So who's setting the date? SHPO or KTA
For the submission?
for the July visit?
Oh, SHPO is like the first choice, and then KTA and us sort of coordinate with them.
Because that doesn't give much time to August 1st. If we have to go out and take more photos of districts
Right.
and properties, that's
It's not a lot of time.
almost not doable.
But it still gives us time, well, because August 1st to September 30th. September 30th is the final 100% complete, all edits completed.
Okay.
There's that 2-month period, so even if we don't get direction on the additional districts or individual properties until maybe just before August 1st, we still have 2 months to do the photographs that they're gonna need for their 100% final submission.
Month and a half or less.
Yeah.
Because they have to format and do
Yeah.
all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fair to them.
So,
Where do we stand with what we know we had to do?
I think it's just the same portion of the St. Paul district that Ryan and I are supposed to do, or might it just be just me?
Well, there were 3 sections.
Right, you and
did the
Greg did
north
one. I
section.
think Ryan said he had gone out, I don't know if he's uploaded, but I think he said he had gone out and taken photos. I have not gone out, so I need to
You
take
haven't
my
done
photos.
any of them yet?
Nope.
Okay, because I think he said he did.
Okay.
his. I haven't seen any, but, and then the girls, you guys did,
Yeah.
All my pictures are taken, I just have to upload them. And
Yep.
Chris answered some questions I had, so I should be able to do that this week. Get 'em all.
I just uploaded mine, so.
So the Laurelton's all done, aside from labeling and uploading. And then we still have a couple individual properties. We had 18 if you did 4 or something. Okay. I still have 2 that we missed that I
Yeah.
have to do.
Oh, you still got, you didn't do it.
Yeah, I didn't do those of the streetscape, but then we still have to. We'll have to do the other individual properties.
Right,
Seabreeze is done.
Seabreeze is done, right?
Yeah, Chris and I went and did that.
Okay.
Or no,
No, you and Mark did.
I forgot. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought you
Seabreeze.
and I went to go see John.
No,
Seabreeze is
yeah.
done.
Yeah, Seabreeze is done too.
Yeah, Seabreeze is done.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's 2 out of 3.
We didn't know, there wasn't a lot of guys of what to do, but we just kind of winged it, but
Yeah,
We had a lot. There were like
we took we took a ton of
20 or,
pictures.
yeah, I think there were 20, 22.
We did a lot of high, we went up on the top of the water slides, like to get a lot of visibility up there. I mean, we did as much as you could, right?
yeah,
More the historic stuff. I mean,
Right.
we can take pictures of the new, very new
Right.
stuff. So,
so Jackrabbit, bobsleds,
By the way, not to get on our tangent, but the Jackrabbit, they just had their 150th, was it? They had an
Shouldn't be.
anniversaries on Facebook.
100,
over the last-
probably 125th.
Maybe 125th.
Yeah.
It was on Facebook or something about
Yeah.
it. Do we really try to push them to be on? Oh, I asked Alex, John's son, Alex. I said, do you care if we put you on the National Registry? And he said he was all for that. As
Yeah.
long as there isn't the local designated with as legal stuff. I don't know if I want to open that can of worms.
smart.
He goes, I don't know if I want to open that can of worms because we smartened them when we went there a few years ago.
Right, yeah,
So anyways, he's like all for the National Register. I think we need to push to do that, like finally. And I'm not saying I want to put the work on you, but you
Right.
know how to do it. But isn't this something we want to do?
it'd be a nice pairing with Whispering Pines. It's like the oldest miniature golf course with the oldest continually operating roller
Yeah,
coaster
both
right
within
next to
100
each
yards
other.
of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the pairing for sure. I think that's tourism too. I think you can get potentially some.
Well, we already
money.
designated the National, the Whisper Pines.
That's
on-
already-
Whispering Pines is
already-
listed, but it's not a designated landmark.
No, it's not
Yeah.
for the town code, but
Right.
the national.
National, it's listed,
It
yeah.
is,
Yeah. I think I think Alex knew that too.
Yeah.
Did we tell him when we were there too about Whispering Pines?
I don't remember now. I may have been taking the pictures when you were talking.
I was doing all the talking, yeah.
The other item for Townwide Historic Resource Survey, so I gave KTA a couple of options, knowing that I think we like to stick to our fixed meeting schedule if we are to do a public meeting for presentations. So for them, the date that worked best for them to give their final public presentation on the project is our August 26th meeting. So we just need, we need to sort of coordinate with the town to figure out the best way that we can get that broadcast in a better manner than we did our previous meeting, because I think having the camera, the town camera face the TV screen, We had a lot of that sort of issues with like the feedbacks on the mics and things like that. So I'm going to talk to them if we can figure a better way to work it here in the Broderick room, or if not, work it in the large meeting room in the town library as one of the two options.
That's what, I thought that was a better venue.
I think it
but-
probably is the better venue.
Bigger than here? It wasn't much bigger, was it?
Seating capacity is probably about the same, but the technology is a little friendlier. Yeah.
It was a little, yeah, it was a little more intimate. like,
yeah.
This is more grandiose in here, I guess. Well, I don't know, it just seemed more inviting going over there.
I'm just wondering if we should wait till September though, because it's the week of, like, Monday is Labor Day and school starts, like, do you think, like, a lot of people aren't tuned in, where everyone goes back to church, you know, in September,
Right.
back to school, back to church? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm open to considering dates that aren't our regular meeting dates. It's just that, yeah, we couldn't do our regular September meeting because that's it's getting way too close to hitting that. Everything has to be done by the 30th.
Payment, yeah.
But if we did like the first week or maybe the second week of September, that could be a potential.
I think it's good, yeah, I don't mind coming to
Okay.
another meeting.
Yeah,
Sure.
that worked for me.
Okay. Do you guys want to stick to Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Tuesday in the second week of September?
It's probably safer for getting rooms and stuff too, because the other board meetings and
So what day is that?
The second Tuesday of September is the 9th. And school starts the 11th, if I had to guess.
Really? That late?
No, the week before.
Oh, they are, they're going
Yeah, it's the
super
week
early?
before.
That means they're going back super early. Just by the way the dates fell then.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah, that's always the Thursday after Labor Day, that's right. Labor Day is really early this year.
Yeah, it's the first.
it's the first.
Yeah, it's first, yeah.
Okay, so we'll do the 9th, September 9th. Yeah, I'll verify with KTA, but we'll state that preference just to avoid the rush of end of summer.
That's funny, these kids got a really short summer. They almost got robbed at least a week.
And they're still in school, aren't they?
Yeah.
Technically, they're until tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. I feel like there's even a school. It's Thursday.
They are never in school, I'm sorry, the kids are never in school,
That's a whole nother topic.
That's because you got teenagers.
But yeah, I hear ya.
The last item we got here on the agenda for new business, this is, I guess, just to sort of plant a flag to start gathering feedback from you all, but to start planning for our 2026 budget. Because at least initial planning on the part of the comptroller begins around now. So if you all have any initial off-the-cuff feedback, feel free to provide it now, but also I'd be happy to field feedback by email. I think at a minimum, we want to maintain or potentially expand a bit our budget for plaques so that we can continue proactively getting rid of our backlog. And that I'd like to push again for some form of compensation for training for everyone in the commission, but happy to take other feedback from folks related to it.
When does this need to be submitted?
I'd have to check back on the email. My guess is no later than August, as far as really getting something sent to the comptroller, all formatted.
So, next meeting, can we have this as an agenda item?
Sure.
And we'll just rehash last
Yeah,
year's and.
that works for me.
I think that's good enough as a starting point. We just adjust
The amounts, yeah.
and we won't have the Pioneer stuff on, will
Right.
we? Is
There,
that some of it?
that's a potential. I think it's something we gotta talk with historian Judd about, as far as if there is opportunity for us to advocate on behalf of the historian's office and the historical society, because there has been continued discussion between those two parties, and I believe the town in interest in potentially submitting a budget request or advocating for a budget request to seek investment in doing repairs in those town-owned properties.
Why wouldn't DPW do that? Aren't they responsible for it?
Should be.
So then they probably have a better shot at getting more money. Why don't we let them do that? It's their responsibility, yeah. right? I think we're overextending. Like, I had a couple comments on our code. I think it's out of our jurisdiction. So
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I just think there's a better shot at getting the money if they ask for it. It's a tiny little amount in their big budget and
Right.
versus it would more than, it dwarfs ours. But
Yeah.
It's just been,
A lot.
because of, the history or that there hasn't been movement, I think, based on, what Greg Merrill was saying.
Or just based on,
Like lack of,
Like no one's taken the
like,
the
not
like
knowing
lead or the accountability for it.
and
Yeah.
not knowing
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
maybe it's
Ignorance,
because
and
they
I
don't
don't,
know.
and I don't
right.
mean it in a negative way, but
Right.
just the lack of knowledge. So they need to know this is under their
Jurisdiction.
domain and let
Yeah.
them.
And I kind of think of it too, like, as we're explaining how this works to people whose houses are newly designated, maybe the town doesn't know that, like, it's your property, you are responsible for making these repairs, or just like any other homeowner would be.
Right.
And then if town-owned property, DPW takes care of town properties.
Did they get a copy of the report?
Town? Yes.
The DPW. You should send that.
Maybe
send
not
it
them
to
specifically. Yeah. I know it went to Bill Lang. Bill Lang's got a copy, but I don't. He's
in planning.
yeah, he's planning. Yeah.
Send them a copy. This is my thoughts.
Yeah. All right, last one, good and welfare. If anyone's got anything they'd like to share.
I did, but I forgot now.
I just have something about summertime vacations and stuff. Next meeting, I will be on vacation. I just making sure we have a quorum. So maybe it's a good thing to ask if we're gonna have a quorum next.
Yes.
So you already got me out at least.
I'll be here.
So the
I
next
should be
meeting
here.
is the 22nd.
July
No,
29.
29th. Yeah, it's
I'm
tail
out.
end.
I'm out too.
Okay, 2 out, 2 in,
I'll be
I'm here.
4. Good.
Alright, just checking.
Ryan will be extra credit. Okay. Last call for your memory. No? All right. Call the meeting adjourned at 8:18 p.m.